Good evening students. I'm very happy to meet you all again in grade 11 economics. So far we have actually completed 4 chapters, right? So we have completed 3 chapters and we are in the 4th chapter. What are the first 3 chapters, children? We discussed about introduction of what is economics, what is statistics, and how economics is related with statistics and how statistical tools help the economist in return. This is what we studied in chapter 1, which was introduction. In the second chapter, we spoke about collection of data. How do you collect data? It is the first step in statistics, right? You have to get data for analyzing, interpreting, and for further uses. So how do you do it? How do you collect data? What are the sources of data, modes of data collection, methods of data collection? Everything was discussed in chapter 2. In chapter 3, we spoke about the organization of data, that is classifying the data. The data collected through the first step, collection of data through questionnaires or personal interviews or the other methods like telephonic interview or mail interview are actually called as raw data. And getting some information from the raw data is very difficult. Drawing information about raw data is 100% very difficult. So what do? We need to go for organization of data. That is, we need to classify the data and present it in the right form for taking it for further studies. So we have discussed various things about how do you classify data on the basis of 4 different things. On the basis of time, place, quantity and quality. We saw what their names are, and then we spoke about the frequency distribution table, then the frequency curve. Okay, so in frequency distribution we spoke about and which variable do we use it for, especially for quantity variable we use this particular methodology, this particular statistical tool, and further we studied about class width, class, what is meant by class frequency, how do you find the upper class limit, lower class limit, class mark, everything. And then we spoke about, we discussed points related to how do you prepare a frequency table. So what are the various things you have to consider? You have to determine whether it should be an equal sized class interval or unequal sized class interval. And then the second point is that you have to decide the number of classes you want to have. After that you have to determine the size of your class. Then fourth step, you have to determine the upper class limit and lower class limit, and finally what do? You go with the frequency. How do you find the frequency? By using the tally marking system. Right, there we have discussed continuous variable and discrete variable. So for continuous variable you go with tally marking system to find the frequency. Talking about a discrete variable, what do? You just go for frequency array. Right, what is the difference between continuous variable and discrete variable? Continuous variable means it can be any numerical value. It can be a fraction, can be any integer, can be decimal value, anything. But when you talk about discrete variables, there should be a proper jump. There should be a proper jump. That is, it is not that each variable or any variable is taken into account as a discrete variable. Things that are having a proper jump from 1 to 2, it will be only whole numbers. When you talk about the number of students in your class, you say 24 or 25. We just don't go with 1.5, 2.5, 2.3, 3.4. We don't go with such values. Okay, hence those will come under discrete variables, and the frequency for that is called as frequency array. So all these things we have discussed, and then we have discussed one important and interesting topic, that is how do you do the adjustment in the class interval. When you have continuous variable, if there is a gap, how do you do the adjustment? You need to find the gap, you need to divide it by 2, and then what else you do? You add it with the lower class limit and deduct it from the upper class limit. That's how you prepare it. You do the adjustment. In the present chapter, which is the presentation of data, you have collected the data, you have organized it, that is, you have classified it. Next step, what do you have to do? You have to go for presenting it for what? Then only you can go for further statistical analysis. So how are we going to present it? We have discussed about 3 different methods of presenting the data. What are the 3? Textual presentation, tabular presentation the data collected is presented in form of text. This can be used for very limited data. Okay, when we have very less variables and less data, you can go for textual presentation. What is about tabular presentation? Tabular presentation is used for a large number of data and different variables also. Okay, this is very easy method. Tabular method, this tabulation method is very easy way of presenting your data because it is easy for you to comprehend and draw values for further analysis. Right. Here even in tabular presentation of data, we saw that there are 4 different classifications which we have discussed already. What are they? Chronological or temporal classification. Then we have discussed about the spatial classification which deals with place, quantitative classification and qualitative classification. After that we have discussed the various parts of a table. You collected the data, you organized it. When you present it, you need to present it in the right way. So how you have to present it? The various parts of a table. What are the various parts of the table? First you should give the table number. Okay, it should be on the top or in front of the table's title. Then title of the table. Okay, where table's title will be there below the table number or follows the table number. Right. Then we have captions or column headings. How do we talk about columns? Columns will be vertical whereas rows are called horizontal. Each box of value is called a cell. Three important terms that we have discussed. Columns. What are the 3? Columns, rows and cells. Fine. Then we have captions or column headings. What are the captions or column headings? Rows or stubs. Row headings or stubs. Then we have the body of the table where the data, the actual data that has to be used for the analysis is presented. The unit of measurement is very important, whether it is mentioned in rupees or dollars or it is in if you are talking about marks out of what, then if you are talking about the height, it should be in centimeter or inches, weight means kgs or grams. This unit of measurement should be given along with where? With the captions or the stubs, that is with the column headings or the row headings. And then we have to mention the source. Even if we have more than one source, it has to be mentioned below the table. And then we have to give a note. Okay, note means what? Whichever data cannot be covered under all these 7 different topics can be given as note and it is found to be the last part of a table. Right. Next, what are we going to do? We are going to go into the third form of presentation of data, which is called the diagrammatic presentation of data. Children, already we have discussed 2, textual presentation and tabular presentation. Third one that we are going to talk about is called as the diagrammatic presentation of data. Fine. We are in chapter 4, which is presentation of data, and today we are going to talk about the diagrammatic presentation. This diagrammatic presentation uses a diagram to present your data. This is the third method of presenting your data and it provides a quick understanding. Out of the 3 methods, if you compare, this provides the quickest understanding because when you see a diagram, it is easy for you to understand what is the data presented. Fine. And diagrammatic presentation of data translates quite effectively and the highly abstract ideas contained in the numbers into more concrete and easily comprehensible form. When you have the budget, your family's budget, when you talk about the budget, when it is given as data, textual presentation, it is highly difficult for you to understand what it is because you have to read the entire text to understand what is presented. When you talk about tabular presentation, yes, of course, you need to refer to the column headings and the row headings, right? You have to refer to the captions or you have to refer to the stubs. But when you talk about the geometric diagram. Okay, next frequency diagram. And finally, the arithmetic line graph. Arithmetic line graph. First, we are going to discuss the geometric diagram. In that even we have two kinds. Okay, one is called bar diagram. Okay, another one is called pie diagram. What are the two kinds? Bar diagram and pie diagram. We will discuss it in detail. Okay, bar diagram is further divided into three types: simple, multiple, and components. What are those three? Simple, multiple, and component. Okay, this diagrammatic presentation is the third way of presenting your data, and we have three kinds of diagrams here. One is for geometric diagram, frequency diagram, and arithmetic line graph. First, we are going to discuss about geometric diagram, in which we have two types of diagram. One is called the bar diagram, another one is called the pie diagram, pie chart. In bar diagram, we are going to discuss about simple bar diagram, multiple bar diagram, and component bar diagram. Okay, in bar diagram we have three different categories. First, we are going to talk about the simple bar diagram. Okay, we are going to discuss bar diagram. And in that, first we are going to talk about simple bar diagram. Right. Talking about it, it comprises a group of equispaced and equiwidth rectangular bars for each class or category of data. It has what? Equispaced and equiwidth. That is, for example, when you have a bar diagram like this, okay, it should be equispaced and equiwidth. What do you mean by equispaced? That is, the space between this bar and this bar should be the same. So, for example, here you have 1 centimeter difference. The space between these two bars are 1 centimeter. Means here also it should be 1 centimeter. Here also it should be 1 centimeter. How many other number of bars you are going to have? The space between two bars are going to be same, equivalent, 1 centimeter. You cannot have 1 centimeter here and half centimeter here, 1.5 centimeter in the next, 2 centimeter in the following one. No, it should be equispaced. And what do you mean by equiwidth? The width given here, right? This also should be same. So here it is gone from 0.5 centimeter. Means this should also be 0.5. This should also be 0.5. This should also be 0.5. You cannot draw like this. Okay, we have one more example. So one is like this. One is like this. Cannot do like this. This is a wrong method for simple bar diagram, because how it should be? It should be equispaced and equiwidth rectangular bars. It cannot be in any other shape. It has to be in what shape? Rectangular bars, and for each class or category of data. Like for example, if you are going to talk about the marks of a student or a class in particular examination, this marks English, this marks economics, this marks business studies. Okay, each bar should mention one particular class or a particular feel that to be easy. Alright, first what are we discussing, children? Simple bar diagram where we have equi-spaced and equi-width rectangular bars, and each bar mentions a class or a category of the data. Fine. So you have an example, but I am going to give you a different one. Okay. So what I am going to have 0, 5, 10, 15, 20 or something like that. Values at the bottom. Here, this side, instead of having values, I'm going to have, what I'm going to have? I'm going to have my subjects. Okay? English. Okay? Then we have business studies. We have economics. We have accountancy. Fine. Here, I'm going to mention the marks out of 50, let's say. Okay? 20, 30, 40, 50. That is how many number of students have taken up to this mark. So when you talk about English, so how many students have attended the test? 30 students have attended the test. Number of students. Number of students, and this is subjects. Okay? 30 students have attended. Next, BSc only 20 have attended. So how do I draw it? I should equalize it till here. Then economics, all 50 have attended. So I'm going to take it to the top. Accountancy, 40 have attended. And take it till there. Okay, my bar diagram may not be equi-sized and equi-width because I am not using a scale, but when we present our data using a bar diagram, of course we need to have how it should be. It should be rectangular shape and it should be equi-spaced and equi-width. And how it should be, the lower end starts, it touches the baseline. This is the lower end, right? This lower end should touch the baseline. The lower end, where it should be? It should touch the baseline, means what? The value starts at 0. Okay, value starts at 0. Bars of the bar diagram can be visually compared. So we can easily see, okay, which subject students have attended maximum? Economics. Where they have attended less? Business studies. So easy for you to compare using the magnitude. What did we discuss? We said that the height or length of a bar represents the magnitude of data. How many? They are measuring, right? So the length or the height of each bar refers to the magnitude of the data, and it is easy for us to compare visually. Okay, so comparison is done. Fine. Data for this can be of frequency or non-frequency. So data can be or non-frequency. What do you think? The values of the characteristics, this is measured or counted values, retain the identity of each value. Right? What happens? It maintains the identity of each value. Here this 50 means it maintains the same value. Here this 20 means maintains the same value. We don't draw it in a different way. Each bar should maintain the same value. For example, figure 4.1. So I have got an example where it shows male literacy rates of major states of India 2011. This is an example for simple bar diagram. For your better understanding, first I have given you a tabular presentation. The same is presented using a diagrammatic presentation, and especially simple bar diagram. So if you see here, different types of data may require different models of diagrammatical presentation. What it is? Different types of data will require different models, and bar diagrams are suitable for both frequency type and non-frequency type. Here also we can use this is non-frequency type. So we will see how it is used in frequency type also. Discrete variables also can be taken into account. Any kind of variable, quantity, quality. Talking about literacy, what kind of variable is it, children? It is qualitative classification, right? Because it's not quantitative. Talking about the literacy, male, female, literate and illiterate, will talk about the qualitative classification. And talking about place, here we'll have the combination of spatial classification and talking about a particular period of time. It is not classified on time, but if it is classified based on time, then it is called as a temporal or chronological classification. Okay, bar diagrams are more convenient for what? Non-frequency data like this. Okay, such as income, expenditure. For that only we use maximum kinds of bar diagrams. Fine. A category that has a longer bar than another category has more of the measured lower end should touch the base line. From here only you should start. You cannot start your bar from here. Always every bar from the simple bar diagram should start from the base line. That is, the value starts at 0. From 0 to 30, 0 to 40, 0 to 50, like that only you can compare. 20 to 30, 30 to 40 cannot be compared, cannot be represented using a simple bar diagram. Alright, it is easy for you to understand for comparing, because when you see itself, you will know which has the highest value. Seeing the length or the height, you will know which is the highest value, which is the lowest value. It can be used for both frequency and non-frequency type of data, but usually bar diagrams are used for presenting the non-frequency data types. Okay, and bar diagrams are further classified into multiple and component. Actually, bar diagrams are classified into 3: simple, multiple bar diagram and component bar diagram. When you have the simple bar diagram, you will have only one bar representing each class. Multiple bar diagram, you will have more than one component. In the same bar, you will divide it and explain it. So now we are going to discuss about multiple bar diagrams. What is the second type of bar diagram, children? Multiple bar diagram. Multiple bar diagram is used for comparing two or more sets of same data. For what? Comparing two or more sets of data. Children, in simple bar diagram even we go for comparing, but that compares one variable, one class with another class, one category with another category. But here, two or more sets of same data. As I said, English, T1, online test 1, online test 2, online test 3. Comparing two or more sets of same data, where we use multiple bar diagram. Fine. So when you have different years, same data in different years, income of a family in different years. Okay, how do you change the same diagram? Let's try. What shall we take into account? Let's talk about the expenditures. Expenditures of a family that we have incurred. Okay, so here we will be having categories like for education, okay, medical, transport. Let's have only 3, and that we have 2 years. One is in 2019, 2020, 19, 20, 19. Fine. So from here, 1000 rupees, 2000, 3000 and 4000. So in 2019, in our family for education, we have spent 1500. In 2020, we have spent 2000 rupees. much, and when you talk about transportation, it has come so down. Okay, this is how you represent data. Fine. What next? This is the example of multiple bar diagram. It's very easy to understand. It is used for comparing two or more sets of data. What should be the same set of data? You can use it especially for what? Comparing. Fine children, what is the difference between simple and compound, simple and multiple? Simple means only one bar diagram. That is, each bar represents one data. Whereas when you talk about the multiple bar diagram, it usually represents two or more sets of data. Even only 2 years, you can take it for even 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And how it should be? It should be drawn like this together. Okay, it should have a common line, then only it will be easy for you to compare. This is how multiple bar diagram is represented. Fine. What is the next thing? Component bar diagram. With this we will stop this particular video session. We will be discussing further in the next video session. Finally, we will finish off with component bar diagram. As I have already explained in brief, it tells about the components, like how you need to break it down. Component bar diagram. Okay. Component bar diagrams are charts. It can be called as charts also, or also called as sub-diagrams. What is it also called as? Also called as sub-diagrams. Why? Because in one bar we will be telling about more than one attribute. That's why it's called as a sub-diagram. It is very useful in comparing the size of different component parts. For example, you had a multiple bar diagram. Same thing, 2018, 19, 20. Like this, if you have total expenses of 5,000, 3,000, 1,000, 0. In this itself, 500 rupees for medical, okay, and this much from 500 to 3,000, that is somewhere around 2,500 rupees you have spent for education, and this is for traveling. Same way, 2019. So medical has become more. Then we have education and travel. Okay, 2020. We had a lockdown, but still this is very expensive for us because we have a lot of medical expenses. Then we are going to have education, right? Online classes and all those things, so education. Then traveling has become very, very less. So what you have done in multiple bar diagram, you have nearby from 3 different columns or 2 different columns comparing. Now what you are going to have? You have in one particular year the family's expenses amount to that much 5,000, and each how much you have spent. Okay, these are the 3 different components of your talk about income, rain, many things, the soil types, many things. This example I am sticking to for your better understanding. So where you have spent more and how it is related with each other is how you use the component bar diagram. So they have given you an example where they spoke about the sales proceeds from different products, expenditure pattern in a typical Indian family, budget outlay for receipts. So component bar diagrams are usually colored or shaded suitably. So if you have seen, they are given note. I have just written medical. So instead of just writing medical, I can use some symbol or I can color it or I can shade it. For example, I am going to use for medical, I am going to use plus symbol. Okay, for education, I am going to use this symbol. Okay, I am going to mark education like this. For traveling, you can use road. Okay. And a car on it. I could draw very different. So a car on it or a traveler. So behind, you know that you have a note column, right? You already said. So in that you can mention if it is marked as plus, then it means what? Medical expenses. Then if it is marked as A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, it mentions educational expenses. And finally, when it marks the road or the train or an aeroplane, however, it's all creativity. It means the traveling expenses. This is how we mark. Now we have just represented with some symbols. You can shade it or you can even color it. Have you seen drawing lines like this, putting checked boxes? Right, all these things can be done. And it shows the bar and the subdivisions into two or more components. Okay, it shows us subdivisions. So they have given you a component bar diagram with the example and the description of how it is studied. So if you see, they have shaded one into black and one into grey, and they have mentioned what it is. So basically a component bar diagram compares between different components of that particular class or that particular bar, and it speaks about the relationship between these integral parts. How they are related with one another is also mentioned. That is when consumption, when the income is more, consumption also becomes more. All these relationships can be studied through the component bar diagram, and each component is usually colored or shaded to mark what it means. Right, children? So what did we discuss today? We have discussed the diagrammatic representation. In diagrammatic representation, we have three methods. One is called what? The geometric representation, right? The geometric presentation, the algebraic line graph, and the frequency diagram. In geometric diagram, we have the bar diagram and pie diagram. We have completed bar diagrams discussion. In bar diagram, we have simple bar diagram, multiple bar diagram, and component bar diagram. We have discussed all these three. Each one of us is essential, and each one of us is useful to represent the right kind of data. When you have very few data, you can go for a simple bar diagram. When you have to compare, okay, the same set of two or more components of the same data, sorry, not components, set of two or more data collection, then you have to go for multiple bar diagram. When you have components with same elements which are related with one another, you go for component bar diagram. It is easy for you to compare where you have spent more and how they are related with one another. So in the next class, we will be discussing about the pie diagram, which is the second method of geometric diagram. Till then, I want you to look into the video properly, understand the topic. I hope you have understood about the textual presentation and tablet presentation. Answer your worksheets in your classwork, don't miss them out. Fine. And of course, if you have any more doubts after watching the video and answering your worksheet, yes, please feel free to reach me out and get your doubts clarified at the earliest. Right, children? Thank you, and we all have a wonderful day.